There was a question, what do you need to know that you don't already know? Yourself. But then who knows the self? Can you know the self? Right, the concept of the self, the concept of knowing. The concept of don't know, right? Do you already don't know? See, the question defies, maybe even violates, say, the fact of being. Does the fact of being warrant questioning? Does it need questioning? So then it's really a practice of opening to what the fact of being is. Can you tolerate the fact of being? Is there such thing as a fact of being? So is there no fact of being? Is then every word suspect of being a concept, right, not worth taking seriously? Conceptualization is not necessarily held highly in certain trainings. Yet even the Buddha is a concept. Realization is a concept, and enlightenment, they are all concepts. Now is a concept. Videotaping is a concept. Watching the video is a concept. Watching. Nothing happening is also a good concept. Everything's happening. Who knows? Theories of knowing and not knowing could be useful for some. See, discussing theories of knowing, not knowing, see, even traditions, different schools, all of that may be useless, see, and counterproductive to real practice. Now, real practice can tolerate conversation for sure. Conversation with purpose, maybe direction, see, maybe with meaning and with depth, some penetrating insight perhaps. Might be good practice. But if you don't have that, you may as well spend your time in silence. That could be good practice. Who would be interested in your baggage or anybody else's baggage? Who cares? Then we'd have to say, well, who knows better? Who's interested in where you've been or who you've been with? Who cares? Who knows better? Who's interested in what you don't know? Who cares? Say. Who cares about what anybody's doing or not doing? Should be doing or has been doing? Who cares? What kind of practices cares about all this stuff? See? What kind of practice feeds off of all of this stuff? You're good. Do you have a comment?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It seems like there are sometimes well-placed frameworks for understanding certain experiences, and then there are situations where those frameworks are just more noise, more confusion.
Who cares about experiences? The experiences. Aren't these more distractions? What is the ultimate experience then? Is it knowing about experiences? Or is it knowing beyond experiences? Is it knowing beyond knowing? Can anyone tolerate that depth, knowing beyond knowing? Knowing beyond information. Conversationally intriguing information, interesting or impressive information. Wow, look at so-and-so has been, wow. Right. Who? What? Right. Is that important? Beyond interesting or fascinating. You enter the great hall, right? And of Zen practice, let's say. The master comes in. What's the master want to hear? How can you impress the master? With what? We have to say good luck. Get ready for the chop chop.
In that case, in that situation.
What situation?
In the hall with the Zen master. Who does the chopping?
Good question. Who do you think? Do you do the chopping? Or do you chop? And would that be acceptable to the master? Or do you still get chopped? In that case, whose chop rules? Go on.
Yeah.
You have some more meat?
What does the master want from anybody?
Good question. What does a Zen master do? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is it supposed to do? Wake you up. Right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good word. What does it mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does the master have to do? Sometimes shock you. Right? Waking up is shocking. Mm-hmm. And kind, right? And very benign. Best. Best chop chop. Chop chop is a kiss. Right. Chop chop is a great hug. Waking up is a compassionate sort of awareness.
What place does comfort have in a practitioner's relationship to their teacher?
What place? You mean like on the couch? On the table? On the floor? Okay. For the real practitioner, the fire is comfort. That's what it is. A place that's comfort, yeah, enjoying the fire, the burn, see. The creative roasting. Turning self-mind into ash. Right. Ego mind into dust. Easy as that. Mm-hmm. As sweet as that, like cake. Pie. The pie of the Dharma. See? The pie of the Dharma is like a sword on the neck of self. Who dares? Who goes there? Sweetness.
When we're talking about drumming, real, basic, native drumming, who channels that and who
doesn't channel that? Everyone channels that. See, the heart channels that. Mm-hmm. But does the mind channel that? Mm-hmm. Does the body-mind of a wannabe player channel that? See? Or beginner in drumming? Drumming therapy or drumming healing or drumming medicine. See? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The purpose of the drumming is to counter the forces of time. And that it does. So drumming, like music, can work for you or against you. Do you know better? Who knows better? If their music is working against them or for them? For them egoically and against them spiritually, or for them spiritually and against them egoically? Can you tell the difference?
What can you say to people who hear you say what you just said about drumming, who want to experience that more fully, who want to be more open to the experience of hearing
They have to train.
music.
They have to train. They have to learn it. There's no shortcut to it. You need to be exposed to something you aspire towards. See, you need to know what it is. See, and if it's about going back in time, which you're disconnected from, see, in terms of an ancient custom, an ancient wisdom, then you have to have access. You have to earn the access. That means you have to go the path to what that is. You have to know what it is to hear it. And then when you hear it, you want to know where it comes from. So you need someone to tell you where it comes from. Preferably someone who is practicing it. So they can not only show you where it comes from, but play it as it is. As it needs to be. To create this result. See? For the self or against the self. For the world or against the world, so to speak. For time or against time. Which is not a bad thing. We don't mean against, it's a problem. But other than whatever time is. Or whatever the pattern is that shows up as time. Which could be time, but it could also not be time.
How can drum time work against or beyond time?
When you don't know what time is. When you don't know what your time is. Assuming any time, drum-wise, can be a time against your time. But are you aware enough to know what that is? If we look at folk cultures throughout the world, they have time signatures that are unique to the place and the time. In other words, the evolutionary time, the time they've evolved to. We don't mean planetary time particularly. We're talking about heart and mind pulse time. Intended to regulate the body and its need for healing, centering, see, and confidence. We're talking about something akin to what could be called the classical time, which under certain conditions ought not be changed or modified. For good reasons, in terms of the culture. But then that time can contradict a creative evolutionary parallel process of time for the individual. So an individual can move into a time, born into a time, cultured in a time, and then evolve beyond that time. And they need to go beyond that time. See? But who spends time enough with themselves to know what that time is? Who goes deep enough into the rhythmic center to know what that time is? Apart from brainwave, apart from heartbeat, see? Apart from breathing. Then we're talking about something like psychic time. Juxtapose the times of the planets Planetary time. See? Planetary time then determined by vibration. See? Planetary vibrations. Which are times? See? Times. See? There are times or vibrational rates, vibratory rates that govern integration and disintegration. See? See? Of the various bodies or chakras in the body, psychic centers in the body. Mm-hmm. What kind of music adjusts what kind of person's chakra system to the degree where there's an opening. See? We're saying from the gross to the subtle, theoretically, to the light. Subtle, no vibration, just intense light. Right? What vibration of time is corresponding to that? In other words, how does classical music in general defeat the purpose of transcending body, mind, and culture? Your question was, is it the tune or is it something else? Sometimes it's the tune, but more deeply, it's what the tune opens. So then you have the aftertune. And when we're talking about creative genius, then it hears the aftertune. All we can say then, relative to composers, the variations. See, the variations, the commentary on the tune. The insight, or as I call it, the in-sound of the tune. Whereas the tune then becomes the face. What is its heart? What is its mind? What is its soul? Say, what is its message? Someone listening to this might think this is about music. Not about music. No way. What are we talking about? Human mind. The human heart. Human nature. Complex, confused. Confounded. And too often full of contempt. And what to do with that? So, pick up an instrument, then what? Play a tune, then what? Is it really for purification? Or for admiration? The adoration, not for purification. For glamorization. Fascination, but not purification. No.
At what point does somebody have that realization?
Good question. Good luck. Yeah, they need to know what that realization could be, for sure. Yeah. And it's not just going to happen. You can't expect it to happen. We're talking about a different level of intelligence. Yeah. Who's going to get to that level of intelligence? Who wants that level of intelligence where they even care that much about anything, let alone what they're doing with their music? Yeah. their game, right? The music game. See? The game of songs. No. The game of theater, musical theater. Musical manipulation. Musical deception. Musical confusion. Musical division. Self-conflict. Musical ambition. Musical competition. Musical beggars. Musical corruption. Musical failure. Musical defeat. Musical collapse. And musical resurrection. Yes. See? Musical inspiration. See? Musical creation and recreation. And musical salvation. See? Musical transcendence. Musical realization. Musical peace. Yeah. See, as the so-called Aquarian age, right? We're talking about the age of creative genius. You have it or you don't. See? And the continual recreation process. Never the same, always refreshed. Never the same tune except by refreshing it. Bringing new variations in from the infinite mind of the musical genius level. See? Age of crazy wisdom jazz now. See? Yeah. Liberation. See? Spiritual soul liberation, so that then you use music to express that liberation. Not just more of the same darkness. See? More of the same imprisoning structures. See? That stifle the creativity of others. See? And block their path. By having them believe that the structures you're playing, right, are not structures you're playing. So the age of liberation is present. And the opportunity to create is also present.
Great.
Same old songs, same old structures do not open the way. They become the way. See? No possibility beyond them. See? That's the world. That's the way of the world. See? Which says only so much. Just a little bit. Just only a little bit. See? People don't have the intelligence to go beyond this little bit, and they shouldn't have the intelligence to go beyond this little bit. They should accept this little bit as we prescribe because it makes money. It sells. Right? Yeah, it sells the souls of people. Right? Who are willing to give up their souls to the culture. Yeah. Right. The culture of the great materialism. Yeah. And the great music of materialism. And so without the few who respond to this, the Sahasrara universe of light, and the continual bathing in its light and its fire, without that, made available to the few, what possibility would there be? How could crazy wisdom jazz, so to speak, exist? The very purpose of yoga is to bring in the light to the body, make the body temple of light. Enlightenment. And then some would say, well, enlightenment is just the basis. It's the ground floor. We need crazy wisdom, madness, humor, genius. So let there be genius. In sound and light. So who dares to go deeper? Deeper than they know. Deeper than anyone knows or cares to know. That's each individual spirit soul's right to self-discovery, self-recovery, and self-realization. And one of the keys to getting to that place is to be able to spend time in the grace of aloneness. Hearing and feeling and even seeing and knowing what is deepest in your case. Beyond what you've heard and seen, what you have felt and known before. See? Who dares to explore that, see, for themselves? Who will be a pioneer as such? See? Who's being called in that way to stand up, see, for that which is beyond, let's say, mortality? Who hears that call from the immortal soul? See? To be a light unto itself, to all beings. Music is a form of astral projection. Music is, or can be, a means for out-of-body consciousness. In fact, music is out-of-body consciousness. Yeah. When we think of the sound current itself, talking about that which is space, the sound of space, space sound, yeah, which you're listening to right now unconsciously, in every moment of your existence. That which is fueling us, that many say is light, is also sound, vibration. Light, sound, vibration. The light, the spiritual light, and the spiritual sound. See? The yin and the yang, light and the sound together. See? So when you're young and you're playing music, as I have demonstrated to many peeps relative to the master dance in my conversations, I said, no, the music was about out-of-body experience for me. Yeah. Coming to terms with the fact of the Kundalini power, the serpent power, fire rising from the base of the spine straight up to the head and beyond. And the feeling of elevation that comes with that, and levitation that came and comes with that. Saying, all of this is pretty natural. It's not unnatural or supernatural, it's basically natural. Mm-hmm. And drumming of the shamanic technique is also for the purpose of opening chakras, opening the consciousness, entering trance states, and going beyond self-thought and mind and world altogether. No mystery there. All the cultures, all the native cultures, have their basis in shamanic, wisdom and revelation concerning, primordial and primitive music, which is not that primitive, very sophisticated. We're not judging the heart to be primitive. You have a primitive heart, who doesn't? So, left to the heart, we're all primitives. We're all just native beings here. Not one better than the next or higher than the next. One is subject to the function and ways of the heart. Question about polyrhythmic patterns. The human being is polyrhythmic. Polymelodic, polyharmonic, to the infinite degree, but not conscious as such. Culturing reduces what appears to be native complexity to basic fundamentals relative to music. That's the way of culture, that's the way of the world. Just play this. Please just play this and be one of us. Okay? Just play this time. Tick, 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 tick. Don't go tick, 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 tick. That's perfect. Don't go from there. Let's keep it like that. That's the time we want. That's the time we agree to. Hello, people. We're in the universe of all time and no time. All melodies and no melody. All harmonies and no harmony. Silence. The sound of silence. Do you dare to hear what really is present? What you're really hearing? Are you Willing to hear what your ears are really hearing at the unconscious level? Or let's say at the superconscious level? In the light of that, who can complain about a little jazz, which doesn't even scratch the surface of what that is? And free jazz, which also doesn't scratch the surface of whatever the real free is. Maybe a fraction, maybe an atom of the universe.
You mentioned the purpose of learning anything is to let it go, to master it and transcend it.
That's an idea.
Yeah. But then what was just experienced, what you just mentioned was this roaring silence, this immense presence.
Yeah, which it is. Right. Yeah. Right.
It's almost hard to line those two ideas up. And one's not an idea, I guess.
One's an experience, right? And the other, ideas about experience. So to learn to let go is even, as you say, the experience of the roaring silence. To let it go. Because it is what it is. It's going to be what it is whether you let it go or you attach to it or you meditate on it or you cling to it or sink into it or escape into it or whatever. See, it is what it is. And the burn is, the burn of liberation means let it all go. Let it all go. See? Let self-thought, mind, world, others go. Body, go. See? You do it every night anyway. So what's strange about it? What's violating about it? See? What's intimidating about it? See? What's not to like about it or love about it? Since every night, right, you cast off body and mind. Not to forget, fact of life. To cast off more, in other words, means to liberate yourself more from preoccupation, right, with the thoughts of others, the feelings of others, the gunk of others, see, the unfinished business, the lack of discipline of others, see, the pollution of others, who just need your ears so they can pollute you, see, with their own filth and disgraceful, unfinished business, impurity. Unconscious wish to corrupt your peace in your light. Hugh.
You mentioned that the master sees mastery in others. Can you reconcile that or relate that to your comment about just being an ear for people's noise and junk?
What about that? Yeah, who wants to just be that? It's the question, who wants to be that?
Yeah.
Who can afford to be that? Just, right? Be an ear for people to dump in, so to speak. If that's your purpose, then right, there's plenty of that to satisfy your need, whatever your need is. See? Your need might also be to be in a position where you're giving something of yourself, see, to others that somehow or other, see, enables them to not have to do that to you. Or anybody else. Right. No. And there we have a sample of what self-mastery is about. Come in.
It seems like in certain situations it would take an accumulation of practice to hold that space.
Right. That was what the initial point was today relative to the hall, coming into the hall, right? Arriving at the Zen Master's hall. And seeing the presence of the Zen Master properly. As being a flower, right? And a hatchet. Yeah. Yeah. At your service, by the way. At your humble service. Right. Right. And that chopping is basically to chop off concern for what is irrelevant and unnecessary. Or garbage. Concern for garbage, more garbage. Too much garbage. Keeping it simple and fundamental, like the flower and the hatchet. Two things. Two symbols. The same thing and yet different things.
You mentioned clinging to, for example, silence, the experience of silence, making that an issue.
You mean instead of letting silence be what it is?
Yeah.
Right, you want to manipulate it, right? Interpret it. You want to get in between what it is, right? And yourself. And silence, right? It's like a thing. It's been reduced now to a thing. Silence is nothing. It's not a thing. But you make it that. See? Okay. That's what we do. We don't want direct experience. Speechless direct experience. Mindless, thoughtless direct experience. It's too much to bear. It's like being beheaded. But my head, what about my head? My head has to speak for itself. I have a head. This is what's in my head. Not real. It's not so. There's no head. This level. It's not a negating. There's no head that's in the way. So it's not a negating. It's an admittance. It's an affirmation that there is no such head that is a problem. As you say, and as you might appear to be to yourself. In the form of silence or in the form of noise. In the cause of silence or in the cause of noise. There's no such thing. Say, chop, chop. Right. Then it is what it is. As it always is. And that's what the Zen Master wants you to recognize. What the is. That always is. And so?
So then there is progress.
Well, it's more than progress. There's nothing. Better. Oh my gosh, there it goes. Nothing. I always reduce to nothing. Oh, poor me. Right. It's madness. No, that's all there is. See? The space of nothing. It's light. See? It's not a negative. The nothing is radiance. Nothing in the way of the radiance. Hello! Wake up! Hear the music. Join the dance. Spin around. Transcend yourself. Concern. Your self-mind. Your self-body. Your self-suffering. Gone. Breathe. Relax. Enter the grace of now.